The 90-year-old man who built an empire on the promise of sexual freedom gets to stay in his Gothic mansion, surrounded by memories, surrounded by ghosts. 16 months later, Hefner is dead, and the women who lived there, the ones who smiled for cameras, posed for magazines, attended parties where celebrities drank and photographers clicked, finally start talking. They don't talk about liberation. They talk about curfews, 9 p.m. every night. If you wanted to stay out later, you needed Hefner's permission. They talk about mandatory participation, Wednesdays and Fridays, not optional, expected. They talk about allowances, $1,000 a week, like children receiving pocket money, just enough to stay, not enough to leave. They talk about a mansion that looked like paradise from the outside, but felt like a prison from the inside. This is the untold story of the Playboy Mansion. Not the parties, not the glamour, not the magazine spreads. The story of what happened behind the Gothic walls when the camera stopped rolling. The story of an empire built on the illusion of choice while systematically removing it. If you're drawn to stories about places that promised freedom but delivered control, about empires that sold fantasy while manufacturing reality, and about the moment when carefully constructed images finally collapse, please like and subscribe. These investigations take months of research. Your support makes them possible. Thank you for being here. Let's begin where every empire begins, with a lonely child who learned that love had conditions. April 9, 1926. A boy is born in Chicago. His name is Hugh Marston Hefner. His parents, Glenn and Grace Hefner, are strict Methodists, conservative, rigid. Affection is not demonstrated in their household. Grace Hefner's parenting philosophy: children should be seen, not heard. Emotions are weakness. Physical affection is inappropriate. Hugh later tells interviewers, "My mother never hugged me, never told me she loved me." His childhood is emotionally cold. Not abusive in the traditional sense. He's fed, clothed, educated, but emotionally starved. What he learns: love has conditions. You earn affection through achievement. You control what you can't naturally receive. This shapes everything. 1944. Hugh turns 18. World War II is raging. He enlists in the army. He serves as a writer for a military newspaper. Not combat, but it's service. 1946. War ends. Hugh returns to Chicago, enrolls at University of Illinois. 1949. While in college, Hugh marries his college girlfriend, Mildred Williams. But there's a problem. Before they married, Mildred confessed she'd had an affair while Hugh was overseas. Hugh is devastated, not just by the affair, but by the fact that she had sexual experience he didn't. He feels inadequate, insecure, like he lost something he can never reclaim. He never forgives her, even though he marries her anyway. They have 2 children, Christy, 1952, and David, 1955. But the marriage is broken from the start. December 1953, Hugh Hefner, age 27, working as a copywriter, launches Playboy magazine. First issue, no date on cover. In case it doesn't sell, he can keep trying. The centerfold, Marilyn Monroe, nude photograph from a calendar shoot she'd done years earlier. Hefner didn't pay Monroe for the photo. He bought the rights from the calendar publisher for $500. The issue sells 50,000 copies. Hefner's pitch: Playboy isn't just about nudity, it's a lifestyle, sophistication, jazz music, fine whiskey, beautiful women, urban living. The magazine's philosophy: men should enjoy pleasure without guilt. Sex isn't shameful, it's sophisticated. This message resonates. America in the 1950s is sexually repressed. Post-war conservatism dominates. Wives are expected to be domestic. Men are expected to be providers. Desire is hidden. Playboy says, why hide it? Second issue sells 54,000 copies. Third, 70,000. By 1960, circulation exceeds 600,000. Hefner is suddenly wealthy, and he has a vision: build an empire where his philosophy becomes reality. 1959. Hefner purchases a 70-room mansion in Chicago's Gold Coast neighborhood. Cost $400,000, roughly $4 million today. This becomes the first Playboy mansion. Hefner converts it into magazine headquarters, offices throughout, his personal residence, master bedroom, private quarters, party venue, ballroom, entertaining spaces, living quarters for Playboy bunnies. This is where the system begins. Hefner hires young women to work as Playboy bunnies, hostesses at Playboy clubs, nightclubs Hefner opens in multiple cities. Some of them live at the mansion. The rules are forming. These aren't employees with apartments elsewhere. They're live-in staff, available when Hefner wants company, available when parties need hostesses. It's not explicit yet, but the pattern is established. Beautiful women living in Hefner's space, under his roof, under his control. Throughout the 1960s, Playboy becomes a cultural phenomenon. The Playboy clubs, nightclubs in major cities, Chicago, New York, LA, London, etc. Women dressed as bunnies, leotards with ears, cottontails. Membership clubs, men only. For a fee, members could drink, dine, watch performances, interact with bunnies. The bunnies weren't allowed to date customers, strict rule, but Hefner dated bunnies constantly. The TV show, Playboy's Penthouse 1959 to 1960, and later Playboy After Dark 1969 to 1970. Hefner hosts jazz music, celebrities, parties, all filmed at the Chicago mansion. The message: this is the sophisticated bachelor lifestyle. What's not shown: the women working these parties often weren't there by pure choice. They were employees. This was their job. 1964. A doctor prescribes Hefner amphetamines, stimulants, for fatigue. Hefner becomes dependent. For years, he takes amphetamines daily. They keep him awake for days at a time. He works 20-plus hour stretches, parties all night, sleeps briefly, repeats. This accelerates his behavior. More parties, more women, more excess. By the late 1960s, Hefner is living entirely at night. He wakes around 6 p.m., works or parties until dawn, sleeps during the day. His staff adjusts to his schedule. The mansion operates on Hef time. The women who live there adjust too, or they leave. 1970, the move to LA. 1970, Hefner decides Chicago is too cold, too Midwestern. He wants to be in Los Angeles, Hollywood, celebrities, year-round parties. 1971, he purchases a mansion in Holmby Hills, one of LA's most exclusive neighborhoods, near Beverly Hills and Bel Air. The property, built 1927, Gothic Tudor style, stone exterior. Size, 22,000 square feet, 29 rooms. Land, 5 acres. Purchase price, $1.1 million, roughly $8 million today. This becomes the Playboy mansion the world knows. Hefner immediately begins renovations, not to modernize, to customize for his lifestyle. The master bedroom. Hefner redesigns the master suite, mirrored ceiling so participants can watch, rotating bed controlled by a button, hidden cameras. Hefner filmed extensively, thousands of hours of footage exist. Intercom system could summon staff or women from anywhere in the mansion. The Grotto. Hefner builds a man-made cave connected to the swimming pool. Waterfall entrance, dim lighting, secluded alcoves, heated year-round. Hefner describes it as romantic. Women who were there describe it differently. Years later, multiple women will describe the Grotto as a place where they felt pressured, coerced, or assaulted. where saying no was difficult, where other people were always watching. But in the 1970s, this isn't public knowledge. The girlfriend system begins. Mid-1970s, Hefner establishes the system that will define the mansion for 40 years. He has multiple official girlfriends at once, not dating casually, living in the mansion, in official relationships, typically 5 to 7 women at a time. The rules. 1. You live at the mansion. No keeping your own apartment. You move in. Your bedroom is assigned. 2. You have a 9 p.m. curfew. If you go out during the day, you must return by 9 p.m. unless Hefner gives explicit permission to stay out later. 3. You receive a weekly allowance, typically $1,000 to $1,500 per week, presented as generosity, actually creates financial dependence. You can't save enough to leave comfortably. 4. You cannot work. Girlfriends aren't allowed to have jobs. Hefner wants them available. This increases dependence. 5. Wednesdays and Fridays are mandatory. These are bedroom nights. All girlfriends expected in Hefner's bedroom for group activities, not optional. 6. You must attend parties. When Hefner hosts, girlfriends must attend, must look perfect, must be friendly to guests. 7. Plastic surgery is encouraged. Hefner pays for procedures, especially breast augmentation. This increases financial dependence and physical conformity to his preferences. Women who lived there later describe this system as prison with better furniture, a gilded cage. You felt chosen at first, then you felt trapped. The 1970s are the mansion's peak. Parties happen almost weekly. Who attends? Hollywood A-listers, Jack Nicholson, Warren Beatty, James Caan, regulars. Musicians like Mick Jagger, members of the Beatles. Athletes, various NFL, NBA players. Directors, producers, studio executives. What happens? Drugs are everywhere. Cocaine openly used. Quaaludes distributed, sometimes by Hefner personally. Later testimony reveals some women were given drugs without their knowledge, pills slipped into drinks. The grotto is constantly in use, people disappearing into the cave, activities heard but not fully seen from the main pool area. The game house, separate building with arcade games, becomes notorious. Women later describe being led there during parties for activities they didn't want to participate in. Hefner's bedroom. Some parties migrate there later in the evening. Women describe being expected to participate or watch. Consent is murky. In the 1970s, the culture around consent is different. No means no isn't widely understood. Pressure, coercion, alcohol, drugs, these don't register as problems. But later, women will say, I couldn't say no. He was Hugh Hefner. I lived in his house. I depended on him. I said I was tired. He said it was Wednesday. That meant I had to come to the bedroom. I was handed a drink. Later, I couldn't remember parts of the night. Bill Cosby at the mansion. Throughout the 1970s to 2000s, Bill Cosby is a regular at the mansion. Years later, 2014 to 2015, multiple women will come forward with allegations that Cosby assaulted them at the Playboy mansion. Common story? Cosby would invite young models and actresses to the mansion, offer them drinks. They'd wake up hours later with no memory of what happened. Hefner later claimed he had no knowledge of this, but the mansion's environment enabled it, a place where powerful men had access to young women, where drugs were normalized, where what happened behind closed doors stayed behind closed doors. 1977. A 17-year-old girl named Dorothy Stratten works at a Dairy Queen in Vancouver. Paul Snyder, a small-time hustler and promoter, sees her, becomes obsessed, starts dating her.
1978. Snyder convinces Dorothy to pose for Playboy. He submits photos to Hefner. Hefner loves her. She's exactly his type. Blonde, young, innocent looking. August 1979. Dorothy is named Playmate of the Month. She's 18 years old. She moves to Los Angeles, lives at the mansion briefly. Snyder follows. Dorothy becomes a rising star. Acting roles, magazine covers. Hefner is grooming her to be the next big playmate, but Snyder is increasingly jealous and controlling. Dorothy starts dating Peter Bogdanovich, film director. Snyder is enraged. August 14, 1980. Dorothy visits Snyder at his apartment to discuss their separation. Snyder kills her, then takes his own life. Dorothy is 20 years old. The response? Hollywood is shocked. The media covers it extensively. Hefner's response? He's devastated, releases a statement mourning her death. But questions arise. Did the Playboy system contribute to her death? She was young, vulnerable, thrust into a world of powerful men. Snyder felt entitled to control her because he discovered her for Playboy. Hefner never acknowledges any responsibility, but this tragedy haunts the mansion's history. The 1980s bring challenges to Hefner's empire. AIDS crisis. HIV/AIDS emerges. Sexual promiscuity suddenly carries deadly risks. The free love culture of the 1970s becomes dangerous. Playboy's entire brand is built on consequence-free sexuality. AIDS makes that impossible. Cultural shift. Feminism evolves. Second-wave feminism, 1960s to 1970s, was sometimes allied with sexual liberation. Third-wave feminism, 1980s to 1990s, questions whether Playboy's version of liberation actually empowered women or objectified them. Protests outside Playboy buildings become common. Circulation declines. The Playboy's peak circulation was 7 million in 1972. By 1985, 4 million. By 1990, 3.4 million. The internet is coming. Free content will destroy the magazine model. Hefner doesn't adapt fast enough. Girlfriends start leaving and talking. Late 1980s, some women who lived at the mansion start speaking out. Not widely covered yet. Pre-internet. Media is still friendly to Hefner, but in interviews, some women mention the curfew system, the allowances, feeling controlled, pressure to participate in bedroom activities. Hefner dismisses these as disgruntled ex-girlfriends. The culture believes him. He's Hugh Hefner, icon, legend. The women are dismissed as attention seekers. This will change, but not for 30 more years. July 1, 1989. Hefner marries Kimberly Conrad, Playmate of the Year 1989. He's 63, she's 26. They have 2 sons, Marston, 1990, and Cooper, 1991. For a few years, Hefner tries to be a family man. The parties continue, but less frequently. He's attempting domesticity. It doesn't last. 1998, Kimberly and the boys move out of the mansion to a house next door that Hefner owns. They're still married legally, but separated. Why? Kimberly later says, "He wanted to return to his lifestyle. I couldn't raise children in that environment." Translation: Hefner wanted the parties, the girlfriends, the old system back. Kimberly took the children and left. They don't officially divorce until 2010. The 1990s are brutal for Playboy. Why? 1. The internet. By the mid-1990s, free adult content is available online, unlimited, instant, anonymous. Why would anyone pay $6 for a Playboy magazine? Circulation continues plummeting. 1990, 3.4 million. 1995, 3.2 million. 2000, 2.5 million. 2. Cultural evolution. The sexual revolution is over. It's been absorbed into mainstream culture. What was transgressive in 1953, showing nudity, discussing sexuality openly, is now everywhere. Playboy isn't radical anymore. It's quaint. 3. Feminism's critique. By the 1990s, the feminist critique of Playboy gains mainstream traction. The question, did Playboy liberate women, or did it just create new ways to commodify them? Gloria Steinem, who went undercover as a Playboy bunny in 1963, wrote about exploitative working conditions, harassment, and the objectification system. By 1995, this view is widespread. Hefner becomes a relic, still hosting parties, still living his 1970s lifestyle, but the culture has moved on. 1998, the separation. 1998, Kimberly Conrad and their 2 sons move out of the mansion. Not divorced yet, but separated. Why? Hefner wanted to return to his old system, multiple girlfriends living in, parties resuming. Kimberly refused to raise their sons in that environment. She takes Marston, 8, and Cooper, 7, and moves into a house next door, owned by Hefner. Hefner's response? I want to recapture my youth. He's 72 years old. He immediately resumes the girlfriend system. Young women move back into the mansion, the parties restart. But the women moving in now are different from the 1970s-80s cohort. The late 1990s girlfriends. Late 1990s, Hefner recruits new girlfriends. The pattern: very young, typically 18 to 22, aspiring models and actresses, LA is full of them, financially struggling, easy to entice with mansion living and allowances. The pitch? Live in the Playboy mansion, be part of the lifestyle, get exposure, attend amazing parties. What's not mentioned? The curfew, the rules, the expectations. Women accept because this is Hugh Hefner, icon, legend. Surely it's an opportunity. By the time they understand the reality, they're already living there, and leaving is complicated. 2001. A 21-year-old woman named Holly Madison moves into the Playboy mansion. She's from Oregon, moved to LA to model and go to college. She meets Hefner at a club. He invites her to a mansion party. At the party, he offers, "Would you like to be my girlfriend?" Holly is stunned, flattered. This is Hugh Hefner. She says yes. She moves in within weeks. Holly's first night. Holly later describes in her book Down the Rabbit Hole, 2015. Her first night at the mansion, she's brought to Hefner's bedroom with the other girlfriends. There are 6 at the time. She doesn't know what's expected. The other women start undressing. Hefner is waiting in bed. Holly freezes. One of the other girlfriends whispers, "You don't have to do anything you don't want to, but this is what happens here, Wednesdays and Fridays." Holly later writes, "I felt like I was watching myself from outside my body. I didn't want to be there, but I also didn't know how to leave. I just moved in. I had nowhere else to go." She participates. She describes it as mechanical, joyless, and humiliating. But this is the routine, twice a week for 7 years. The Mansion Rules, 2000s version. By the 2000s, the girlfriend system is fully codified. The rules Holly and others lived under: 1. 9 p.m. curfew. If you're out during the day, you must be back by 9 p.m. No exceptions unless Hefner personally grants permission. Holly describes having to text Hefner, wait for response. Sometimes he'd say yes, sometimes no. Always felt like asking a parent. 2. Weekly allowance. Girlfriends receive $1,000 per week. Main girlfriend gets $1,500. This seems generous, but covers expenses, food, gas, personal items. Can't save enough to leave comfortably. Would take months to save first and last rent and deposit. creates dependence. 3. Mandatory bedroom nights. Wednesdays and Fridays. All girlfriends expected in Hefner's bedroom, not optional. If you skip without permission, you're confronted the next day. 4. No jobs allowed. Girlfriends cannot work. Hefner wants them available. This increases dependence, no income outside his allowance. 5. Appearance standards. Specific dress code, certain pajamas for bedroom nights, specific outfits for parties, weight requirements. Holly describes being told to lose weight. Plastic surgery encouraged. Hefner pays, but it increases dependency. 6. Social restrictions. Friendships with outsiders discouraged, family visits limited, contact with ex-boyfriends forbidden. Holly's description is, "It was like being in a cult. Everything revolved around Hef, his schedule, his needs, his approval." Holly becomes main girlfriend. 2002, Holly is elevated to main girlfriend. This means she gets the bedroom closest to Hefner, her allowance increases to $1,500 per week, she's expected to attend all events with him, and she's featured more prominently in magazine. Holly initially sees this as validation. I must be special. He chose me as number one. But the reality, more responsibility, more pressure, more time with Hefner required. And Hefner is aging. By 2002, he's 76 years old. The reality of intimacy with Hefner, 2000s. Holly and other women later describe what bedroom nights with Hefner actually involved. Hefner required assistance. By his mid-70s, Hefner couldn't perform without Viagra. He took it before every bedroom night. Physical assistance from multiple women, specific routines, same positions, same order. Holly describes it as like a ritual, choreographed, the same thing every time. It lasted maybe 2 minutes for him, but we were expected to be there for an hour. Other girlfriends confirm Hefner watched himself in the mirrored ceiling. Porn played on TVs around the room. Other women were expected to be there even if not directly participating. Afterward, Hefner would immediately dismiss everyone. No affection, no conversation. Purely transactional. 2003 to 2005. Holly spirals into depression. She later describes crying daily, feeling trapped, suicidal thoughts, contemplated taking pills, jumping from a balcony. Isolation. Her friends outside the mansion had drifted away. Why didn't she leave? 1. Financial dependence. She had no savings, no job, nowhere to go immediately. 2. Sunk cost fallacy. I've already been here 3 years. If I leave now, it was all for nothing. 3. Hope. Maybe if I stay, he'll marry me, then it won't have been wasted. Hefner had hinted at marriage, told Holly she was special, different from the others. Holly believed him. She stayed. August 7th, 2005. A new reality TV show premieres, The Girls Next Door. The show follows Hugh Hefner, his 3 main girlfriends, Holly Madison, Bridget Marquardt, and Kendra Wilkinson. Produced by E! Entertainment. The premise: go inside the Playboy mansion, see what life is really like for Hefner's girlfriends. What the show portrays: fun, parties, shopping trips, the girlfriends giggling and getting along, Hefner as a kindly, generous older man, the mansion as a playground. What the show doesn't show: the curfew, the allowances, the mandatory bedroom nights, the depression, the control. The show is heavily scripted and edited, behind the scenes of The Girls Next Door. Years later, Holly and Kendra reveal the reality of filming. Holly: we were told what to wear, what to say, how to act. If we cried on camera, they cut it. If we fought, they edited it to look playful. The show made it look like a dream. It was a nightmare with better lighting. Producers wanted a specific narrative: happy girlfriends, Generous Hefner, fantasy lifestyle. Anything contradicting that was cut. Kendra, who joined as a girlfriend in 2004, age 18, I thought it was going to be glamorous. It wasn't, but we had to pretend it was for the cameras. The show's impact. The Girls Next Door is a massive hit. Millions of viewers, 6 seasons, 2005 to 2010. Impact. 1. Rehabilitates Hefner's image. By the 2000s, Hefner was seen as a dated figure. The show makes him relevant again, humanizes him. 2. Normalizes the girlfriend system. Young women watch the show and think, that looks fun, I want to live there. Applications to be a girlfriend skyrocket. 3. Makes the women celebrities. Holly, Bridget, and Kendra become famous. This complicates their ability to leave. If they leave, they lose their platform. But beneath the surface, tensions are building. 2008, Holly leaves. 2008, after 7 years, Holly Madison leaves the mansion. Why? 1. Hefner refuses to commit. Holly wanted marriage. Hefner kept promising, then backing out. In 2008, Hefner tells her, I'm never going to marry you. I'm sorry. 2. A new girlfriend arrives. Hefner starts showing interest in a 19-year-old named Carissa Shannon. Holly realizes she's being replaced, just like all the others before her. Holly moves out. She later describes the moment. I felt relief, but also terror. I'd spent 7 years there. I was 28. I had no job, no real skills, no savings. I had to start over from nothing. She does start over. Within a year, she's dating magician Chris Angel. Later, she becomes a Las Vegas performer. But the trauma remains. 2009, Kendra Wilkinson leaves. She's pregnant with NFL player Hank Baskett's child. 2009, Bridget Marquardt leaves. The show ends in 2010. Hefner is alone again. He's 84 years old. He immediately recruits new girlfriends. 2009, Hefner meets Crystal Harris at a Halloween party. She's 22, he's 83. Within months, she's his main girlfriend. December 24, 2010, Hefner proposes. Wedding planned for June 18, 2011. Crystal is set to become the third Mrs. Hefner. Then, 5 days before the wedding, June 13, 2011, Crystal calls off the wedding. She runs, leaves the mansion, releases a statement, I'm not ready for this. Hefner is humiliated. Tabloids have a field day. Headlines, Playboy ditched at the altar. Hefner's response? Publicly, I wish her well. Privately, according to staff, devastated, embarrassed, angry. But 6 months later, Crystal returns. Why? She later says she panicked, felt overwhelmed. Others speculate the financial security was too good to pass up. June 18, 2012, they marry. Small ceremony at the mansion. He's 86, she's 27. Crystal later hints at her reasoning. Living at the mansion provided financial security, fame, a path to wealth she assumed she'd inherit. Leaving meant starting over with nothing, so she returned. But the marriage is strange. By 2012, Hefner is physically declining. He's 86. He's had multiple health scares, strokes, infections. Crystal describes the final years. Hefner rarely leaves his bedroom. He watches movies constantly, same films on repeat. He requires constant care, nurses on staff. Intimacy stopped entirely. Crystal becomes more caretaker than wife, but she stays because leaving would mean giving up the mansion lifestyle, the Playboy brand association, any potential inheritance. She's trapped by her own calculation. During Hefner's final years, the mansion falls into disrepair. Staff describe deferred maintenance, roof leaks not fixed, plumbing issues, toilets backing up, carpets stained and rotting, paint peeling, animal problems. Hefner kept exotic animals, monkeys, birds, for decades. 2011, LA authorities cite the mansion for health code violations related to animal care. Some animals are removed, others remain in poor conditions. The grotto becomes toxic. Multiple people, including Hefner, contract Legionnaire's disease, bacterial infection from contaminated water. The pool and grotto water wasn't properly treated. The grounds become overgrown, gardens unkempt, paths cracked, statues covered in grime. Why isn't it maintained? Hefner's cheap. Despite being worth $50 million, he's notoriously frugal about mansion upkeep. Staff report, Hefner would approve parties costing $100,000 but refuse to fix a $5,000 plumbing problem. The mansion becomes a decaying monument to a dying man's fantasy.
January 2016. The mansion goes on the market. Asking price, $200 million. Condition, Hefner retains the right to live there until his death. This limits buyers. Who wants a $200 million house with a 90-year-old man living in it? No buyers at $200 million. Price drops to $100 million. August 2016, Darren Metropolis, heir to the Hostess Twinkies fortune, purchases the mansion for $100 million. Metropolis already owns the property adjacent to the mansion, bought it in 2009 for $18 million. His plan? Combine properties, create the largest private residence in LA. Hefner stays for 16 more months. September 27, 2017, Hugh Hefner dies. September 27, 2017, Hugh Hefner dies at the Playboy Mansion. Cause of death? Natural causes. Cardiac arrest, sepsis. Age? 91 years old. He dies in his bedroom, the same bedroom where thousands of encounters happened, where women cried, where parties ended at dawn. Public reaction? Initial response is largely positive. Obituaries praise his cultural impact. Revolutionary, icon of sexual liberation, changed American culture. Celebrities tweet condolences. But within weeks, a different narrative emerges. With Hefner dead, women start speaking more openly. Why now? 1. The hashtag #MeToo movement of 2017. October 2017, just weeks after Hefner dies, the Harvey Weinstein scandal breaks. Hashtag #MeToo begins. Women across industries speak out about exploitation, assault, coercion. The cultural moment makes it safer to speak. 2. Hefner can't retaliate. While alive, Hefner had power, connections, lawyers. He could destroy reputations. Dead, he can't. 3. Legal protections from NDAs weaken. Many women signed NDAs, but with Hefner dead and cultural attitudes shifting, they're willing to risk legal action. Holly Madison's book, 2015. Even before Hefner died, Holly wrote a tell-all, Down the Rabbit Hole, Curious Adventures and Cautionary Tales of a Former Playboy Bunny, 2015. In it, Holly describes the 9 p.m. curfew, the $1,000 weekly allowance, the mandatory bedroom nights, her depression and suicidal thoughts, feeling trapped. Hefner's response, while alive, dismissive, called her bitter, said she was rewriting history. After his death, more women confirm Holly's account. Kendra Wilkinson's evolution. Initially, 2000s to 2010, Kendra defended Hefner. She claimed she loved her time at the mansion, said it was her choice, but years later she softens this stance. 2017 to 2018, Kendra admits in interviews, I was 18. I didn't know what I was agreeing to. Looking back, I see how manipulated I was. She doesn't fully condemn Hefner, but acknowledges the power imbalance was problematic. January 2022, Secrets of Playboy documentary. January 24, 2022,
A&E releases Secrets of Playboy, a 10-part documentary series. It features dozens of former girlfriends, former playmates, mansion staff, and industry insiders. What they reveal? The allegations. 1. Drugging. Multiple women describe being given drinks at mansion parties that made them disoriented or unconscious. Specific claims? Drinks tasted odd, waking up hours later with no memory, discovering they'd been undressed or moved. Some women suspect quaaludes were used. Hefner was known to keep them. 2. Coercion. Women describe being pressured into situations they didn't want, bedroom activities they refused but were told were expected, grotto encounters where saying no was met with anger, or being told they'd be kicked out if they didn't comply. 3. Filming without consent. Hefner filmed extensively in his bedroom, hidden cameras. Women describe not knowing they were being filmed, learning later that tapes existed, fear that footage would be released. Hefner kept thousands of hours of tapes. After his death, his estate reportedly destroyed many, but not all. 4. The dog food story. One of the most disturbing allegations comes from a former girlfriend, name withheld in some accounts. She describes a night when Hefner offered her a treat, something he called a special snack. He gave her a bowl of what he said was a special mixture. Later, she learned it was dog food. Hefner apparently did this as a joke, testing how far his control extended. This story is corroborated by multiple people who witnessed similar incidents. It exemplifies the dehumanization within the system. 5. The parties not consensual. Former mansion residents describe parties. Women expected to entertain guests, a euphemism for sexual availability, pressure from Hefner and staff to engage with guests, feeling unable to refuse without consequences. One woman described, "You were treated like party favors. If a celebrity wanted your attention, Hef would push you toward them. If you resisted, you'd be punished. Less allowance, moved to a worse bedroom, or told to leave." Bill Cosby allegations resurface. The documentary also revisits Bill Cosby's presence at the mansion. Multiple women describe Cosby inviting them to the mansion, being given drinks by Cosby, waking up with no memory. P.J. Maston, former Playboy bunny, alleges she was assaulted by Cosby at the Playboy Club in 1979. She reported it to Playboy management. They did nothing. The documentary raises the question, did Hefner and Playboy enable Cosby by providing access and cover? Hefner's estate denies this, claims Hefner had no knowledge, but the environment clearly facilitated it.
Post-2017, Hefner's legacy is re-examined. Before his death, seen as icon, revolutionary, champion of sexual freedom. After his death, seen by many as predator who built a system of control and exploitation. The debate. Some argue Hefner liberated sexuality, made it acceptable to discuss openly. The women who lived with him were adults making choices. Others argue choices were made under financial pressure, isolation, and power imbalance. The environment was coercive. The truth is likely complicated. Some women genuinely enjoyed their time at the mansion. Others were traumatized. Both can be true, but what's undeniable, the system Hefner created was designed to benefit him, not the women. After Hefner's death, his will is revealed. Crystal Harris, his widow, inherits $0 from his estate. Nothing. Why? Hefner's will left his estate to his 4 children from previous marriages and various charities. Crystal was provided for during his life. She lived at the mansion, had access to funds, but after his death, nothing. She was also required to leave the mansion immediately. Metropolis, the new owner, wanted to begin renovations. Crystal moved out within weeks. What she left with, whatever personal items she'd accumulated, the Playboy Brand Association, and that's it. She married an 86-year-old billionaire and inherited nothing.
Why didn't Hefner leave her anything? Speculation. His children influenced the decision. He didn't fully trust her. She had left him once. He viewed her as an employee, not a true partner. Crystal has remained mostly quiet. She occasionally does interviews, lives in a modest home, works as a DJ. The fantasy life ended the day Hefner died. After Hefner's death, Darren Metropolis begins renovations. The plan? Combine the Playboy mansion with the adjacent property he owns, create a single mega estate, the largest private residence in Los Angeles. Estimated cost of renovations? $50 million. What's being done? Complete interior gut renovation, structural repairs, roof, foundation, plumbing. Grotto demolished, too damaged, too infamous. Modern systems installed, HVAC, electrical, security. Historical elements preserved, exterior facade, some rooms. Expected completion, 2025-2026. What it will become, Metropolis's private residence, not open to the public, not a museum. The Playboy mansion, as it existed, is gone. The parties, the girlfriends, the system, all erased. For 60 years, Hugh Hefner built and maintained his empire. What did it cost? The mansion purchase in 1971 was $1.1 million, which is $8 million today. Renovations and maintenance from 1971 to 2017 is estimated $30 to $50 million over 46 years. Girlfriend allowances? 5 to 7 women times $1,000 to $1,500 a week times 52 weeks times 40 years equals $15 to $22 million in allowances alone. Party costs? Estimated $5 to $10 million a year during peak years, 1970s to 80s. Total mansion-related costs? $100+ million over Hefner's lifetime. Revenue from the mansion? The Girls Next Door generated licensing fees, estimated $5 to $10 million to Hefner. Photo shoots at the mansion generated magazine content, but the mansion itself wasn't profitable. It was a branding tool. The women? Dozens, possibly hundreds, lived in the mansion under Hefner's system over 40+ years. Many described trauma, depression, eating disorders, PTSD, substance abuse. Some attempted suicide, Holly and others. Some left the industry entirely, unable to recover. Some successfully rebuilt lives but carry scars. Hefner's children? 2 sons, Marston and Cooper, grew up next door to the mansion, couldn't live in it because of the environment. Daughter, Christy, ran Playboy Enterprises, stepped down 2009, complex relationship with father's legacy. All children inherited the estate, but inherited complicated legacy. Hefner himself? 3 failed marriages. Decades dependent on Viagra and amphetamines. Died isolated with a wife who didn't love him and was there for financial security. Legacy destroyed within years of his death. Cultural? Playboy's impact, positive, normalized discussion of sexuality, published serious literature, interviews with MLK, articles by major writers, funded civil rights causes, reproductive rights. Playboy's impact, negative, commodified women's bodies, created blueprint for exploitative environments disguised as empowerment, enabled predators, Cosby and likely others, normalized transactional relationships between powerful men and young women. Net impact? Debatable. For decades, the public believed the Playboy mansion was paradise. Why? 1. Controlled narrative. Hefner controlled the image ruthlessly. Magazine portrayed the mansion as a fantasy. TV shows were scripted to show fun, not control. Celebrity guests validated the image. If they had fun there, must be great. NDAs silenced critics. The women who left were dismissed as bitter exes. The culture believed Hefner over them. 2. Cognitive dissonance. People wanted to believe in the fantasy, the idea of consequence-free pleasure, beautiful women choosing powerful men, freedom without complications. Believing that was easier than confronting the exploitation beneath. 3. Power and access. Hefner had money, could fund legal battles, connections, celebrities, politicians, media figures, platform. Playboy magazine could destroy reputations. Women who spoke out risked everything. Most stayed silent. 4. Generational attitudes. In the 1970s and 80s, consent culture didn't exist as we understand it today. Coercion wasn't seen as assault. Pressure wasn't seen as violation. By 2020 standards, much of what happened at the mansion was clearly problematic. By 1980s standards, it was just how things were. This doesn't excuse it, but it explains why it wasn't challenged earlier. Playboy Mansion promised freedom, freedom from sexual repression, freedom from judgment, freedom to pursue pleasure. But inside the mansion, freedom was an illusion. Women lived under curfews, like children, allowances, like dependents, mandatory participation, like employees, but without employment protections, constant surveillance, cameras everywhere, social isolation, friends discouraged, family limited. This wasn't freedom, this was control dressed in luxury. The lesson: any freedom that requires permission isn't freedom at all. Any choice made under financial pressure isn't truly choice. Any liberation that benefits one person, Hefner, at the expense of many, the women, isn't liberation, it's exploitation with better marketing. The warning for modern contexts. The Playboy Mansion is history, but the pattern continues. Anywhere powerful men promise young women access to glamour, financial security, career opportunities in exchange for availability, compliance, silence, that's the same system. Hollywood, tech, finance, music, politics. Different buildings, same structure. The Playboy Mansion was just the most visible example. 2024. The mansion is still under renovation. No parties, no girlfriends, no grotto, demolished. Just construction workers, tearing out the past, building something new. Metropolis plans to live there with his family. A family home. Ironic. The place that was never truly a home, despite dozens of women living there, will become one. But the ghosts remain, not literal, but the weight of what happened there. The women now. Holly Madison, remarried, has children, wrote second book, lives in Las Vegas, advocates for women in exploitative industries. Kendra Wilkinson, divorced, has children, works in real estate and TV, complicated feelings about mansion years. Bridget Marquardt, never married Hefner, left on good terms relatively, works in media, least critical publicly. Crystal Harris, lives quietly, works as DJ, rarely discusses Hefner. Dozens of others, some speak out, some stay silent. All carry the experience. Hefner's final legacy. Hugh Hefner wanted to be remembered as a revolutionary, champion in sexual freedom, cultural icon, visionary. Instead, he's increasingly remembered as a man who built an empire on control while selling freedom, who created a system of exploitation while claiming liberation, who lived in luxury while the women around him lived in a gilded cage. His mansion, once symbol of fantasy, is now symbol of what happens when power goes unchecked, when choice is coerced, when freedom has a curfew. If you were moved by this story of illusions that concealed control, of paradise that was prison, of a mansion that promised everything but delivered trauma, please like and subscribe. These investigations take months of research. Your support makes them possible. Tell me in the comments, Can any amount of luxury justify losing freedom? Or are gilded cages still cages? Neverland Ranch, Michael Jackson's fantasy that became his prison. Weinstein's Hotels, another empire built on exploitation. Studio 54, excess, drugs, and what happened after hours. The Fire Festival, promises versus reality, luxury as a lie. These aren't just places, they're systems where power created environments that looked like freedom but functioned as control. Every empire built on image eventually reveals its reality. The Playboy Mansion looked like paradise for 60 years. Then the women spoke, and the illusion collapsed. You can't control people forever, even with luxury, allowances, and celebrity parties. Eventually, the truth emerges. Hugh Hefner built a mansion, but he couldn't build a legacy that would survive the truth. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next investigation.